Running late, are you? Almost there, Mom. Calm down, it's me. So you haven't gone there after all. Looks like the call was true. Did something happen? Our daughter had an accident. Come to the hospital right now. What? I'll be right there. Which hospital? Today, our granddaughter was supposed to visit us, but even after the time we were told, she hadn't arrived. Then we received a call from our son. After taking the call, my husband and I started hurriedly getting ready to head to the hospital. As we were bustling around, the doorbell rang, and an unexpected person walked in. Long time no see. Oh, is that the smell of cookies baking? Wow, they look delicious. I was stunned to see my granddaughter, whom I thought had been in an accident, standing right in front of me. My mind stopped again, and this time, my body froze too. My granddaughter, not understanding my reaction, seemed confused and froze as well. I called my son to make sense of the situation. This phone call significantly changed everything. I'm Susan, at 70. I'm already retired, enjoying my life. My husband, George, also over 70, is similarly enjoying his retirement. Many people struggled during their retirement, but thankfully, due to our dual income and my husband's slightly higher earnings, we've been able to live comfortably. Our only son, John, lives about a 30-minute drive away with his wife, Lisa, and our granddaughter, Karen. Living nearby, John's family visits us every couple of months to check on us. Dad, Mom, is anything bothering you? Anything you need help with? Well, we can't think of anything right now. I looked up, crossed my arms, and thought hard but couldn't come up with anything. It wasn't out of politeness to my son, we genuinely didn't need anything. Grandpa, here's the weed killer you mentioned before. I picked it up at the hardware store on my way here. Thanks, I was just about to run out. I appreciate it. It's no trouble at all. I'll put it in the shed in the garden. Thanks, I owe you one. Karen confidently walked to the small shed at the corner of the garden. My husband and I, trusting her, didn't move, but John and his wife looked puzzled, wondering where she was going. Karen often visits us on her own since her school is close by. She helps us with errands like shopping at distant stores and carrying heavy items, solving problems we face. Hence, we rarely need to ask John for help. She understands and takes care of us better than you do. That's true. I'm practically redundant here. Both our families laughed proudly, thinking of Karen. What's laughing about? Karen, having returned from storing the weed killer, joined in our cheerful atmosphere, despite not knowing the context of the conversation. We were talking about you, how you always take good care of your grandparents. Taking care. I just like hanging out with you guys. Even so, you help us a lot, and we're grateful. I also enjoy learning various recipes and baking with Grandma. Well, then, how about we bake something simple today? Do we still have pancake mix? Let's make microwave cookies. They take about 10 minutes, right? Maybe. I should help too, I stated. Karen and I confidently headed to the kitchen, followed by Lisa. Karen quickly prepared everything, leaving me little to assist with. Lisa, unfamiliar with the kitchen, also seemed a bit lost. I gave up on helping with the baking and invited Lisa to help prepare the dishes and drinks instead. In the end, Karen almost single-handedly finished the cookies. Karen's baking skills are a result of her frequent visits. When she comes over, we often bake together. Eating the treats with my husband and Karen, chatting away, is one of our greatest joys. Although Karen loves indoor activities like baking, she's not strictly an indoor person. Listen to this, Karen rode her bike over 18 miles the other day. I just went to check out a new clothing store with my friends, that's all. From now on, take the train, it's safer. Oh, but train tickets are such a waste of money. You always rush out without telling us where you're going. We worry about you. True, you should at least let us know where you're going. Got it, I'll be more careful. Our granddaughter, looking a bit displeased, picked at the cookies. We've warned her many times about leaving the house without saying where she's going, but it's become a habit for her, one that doesn't seem to change. I'm guessing this time won't be any different. Now that she's a high school student, we're beginning to think maybe we shouldn't nag her about it so much. After John's family left, I washed the dishes and George tidied up the room. Another peaceful Sunday was coming to an end. We're living a relaxed retirement life and have a good relationship with John's family. I thought we were really living a good life, but bad things progressed unseen, and even then, it seemed like things were slowly turning for the worse without us knowing. As usual, after school, Karen came over to our house. We were making banana bread together, and she seemed happy. But having lived for 70 years, it was easy for me to see through a 16-year-old's forced smile. What's wrong? Did something happen? Guess I can't hide anything from Grandma, she replied, stopping her mixing. Her joyful expression quickly turned to one of anxiety. Actually, I've been thinking. Mom's been acting a bit strange. Lisa, yeah. She changed her phone's notification sound recently. I think it's so she can tell who's calling by the sound. Sometimes she comes home smelling like someone I don't know. She used to come home from her part-time job earlier than me, but now she's sometimes later, and she keeps checking mine and Dad's schedules. With each mention of Lisa, Karen's face grew darker. Unlike in my youth, high schoolers these days have more experience with love. They also have to be overly sensitive to others' reactions and feelings. Karen, as a high schooler, seems to suspect Lisa of having an affair. She doesn't use the word affair directly, probably because she doesn't want to believe her own mom could do that, and it's not something she can discuss with John or her friends. She must be struggling with what to do. Maybe Dad's also concerned about Mom. He seems a bit distant. You did well to talk about it. But for now, it's just that Mom's behavior has changed, right? I'll talk to your dad about it. Maybe there's just something they haven't told you yet. I avoided the word affair too, choosing my words carefully, but the air was heavy. Wanting to lighten her mood, I hurried to put the banana bread in the oven. It would take about 40 minutes to bake. Normally, time flies as we chat, but that day, our conversation was sparse and we couldn't take our eyes off the banana bread. That night, I decided to call John to check on the situation. Is everything okay between you and Lisa? Karen seemed worried. I was afraid she'd noticed. She's been quiet lately, staying in her room, talking less. Is Lisa really having an affair? I don't know. There's no evidence or certainty, just changes in her routine and interests. I can't just ask her outright if she's having an affair, so all I can do is lightly probe through conversation and actions, mainly just observing. It's been over 15 years since Lisa married you, and she's always been kind to us, visiting with the family. It's hard to see her as someone who would have an affair. There's a good chance it's all a misunderstanding. Our relationship with John's family is good, as is ours, so if we wrongly suspect Lisa of an affair, it could ruin this good situation. But if we do nothing, Karen will continue to feel anxious, and George is also troubled about how to interact with Lisa. John and I both sighed, feeling the dilemma. We couldn't come up with a good solution, so we agreed to think of one before our next call. George and I have been trying to find a good way to handle this, but days have passed without any bright ideas, and time just keeps slipping by. Paying a lot of money for a detective to investigate an affair, like in dramas or movies, is fiction. Reality is just like this. We've done nothing, and 2 weeks have already passed. Karen hasn't visited in these 2 weeks, which is unusual. I was getting worried about her and thinking of suggesting she come over when she suddenly called. "Grandma, can I come over tomorrow?" "Sure, that's fine. I'll come before lunch, looking forward to your cooking." I was surprised and relieved by her sudden call, and before I knew it, the call had ended with a mix of emotions. The conversation was a bit unclear, but it seemed like Karen was coming over to visit. Her voice sounded more cheerful than I expected. Maybe, in these 2 weeks, we had somehow concluded that Lisa was innocent. Thinking about it, the whole affair's suspicion was without evidence or certainty. Maybe I was just overly anxious about something that hadn't even happened. Deciding not to dwell on it anymore, I looked forward to Karen's visit with genuine excitement. The next day, I was waiting for Karen, baking cookies. It was Sunday, but only Karen was coming. John, who works in production management at a factory, apparently had to work due to an urgent deadline. Since John was working, Lisa decided to work her part-time job, so Karen was coming alone. Despite trying not to, I still felt a bit heavy-hearted, not having eased Karen's worries yet, making even the cookie dough feel heavier. Lost in thought, I forgot about time. Suddenly, I realized it was almost lunchtime, and Karen was running a bit late. I couldn't help feeling a wave of unexplainable anxiety. Restlessly waiting, I watched the cookies baking in the oven, trying to distract myself. After about 10 minutes, just as the oven timer went off, the phone rang. Thinking it was Karen, I answered without checking the number. "Karen, are you running late? Are you almost here?" "Mom, calm down, it's me, John." Realizing it wasn't Karen, I felt a bit disappointed, but it helped me regain some composure. Hearing John's anxious voice on the other end, I asked, "It looks like you didn't go there after all, then?" It seems the call was true. "What's wrong?" "Karen had an accident. Come to the hospital right now." "What?" I froze in shock, feeling like my soul was leaving my body. "Mom, stay with me. Get to the hospital. I'm on my way there too. I'll be right there." "Which hospital?" John's urgent voice snapped me back to reality. After explaining the situation to George, we hurried to get ready for the hospital. Just then, someone knocked at the front door. Irritated by the untimely visitor, however, right now, that's not my priority, so I ignored the visitor and focused on getting ready to leave. I heard the front door open. We always leave the door unlocked for Karen, who knocked at the door wants to let us know she's arrived. This way of entering is typical of my granddaughter. "Long time no see." "Oh, is that the smell of cookies? They look delicious." "What?" I was stunned to see Karen, who I thought had been in an accident, right in front of me. Confused by my reaction, Karen seemed to freeze too. Time stood still for both of us. "Karen, weren't you in an accident? Why are you here?" "What do you mean, accident?" "I just got delayed because I took the train after you told me not to ride my bike too far. It wasn't that you were late, so I thought you had an accident. John just called and said you were in an accident and at the hospital." "Huh? Dad said that?" George's voice brought us back to the present. Karen was safe and unharmed, that much was clear. My knees gave out in relief. "Are you really not hurt?" "I'm not hurt, so what's this about an accident?" "I don't quite understand either. Let me call your dad to sort this out." I decided to call John to understand the situation, hoping there might be some development. Regaining my strength, I headed to the phone. This call would significantly alter the situation. As soon as I called, John answered. Immediately, "Mom, I know it's confusing, but listen. I'm at the hospital now, but they said no one was brought in due to an accident. I also had them call nearby hospitals, but it's the same, no accident victims. Calm down and listen, Karen is here with us, safe and sound. That's a relief. So she's okay. What does this all mean? It was Lisa who received the call. They said our daughter was brought to the hospital after an accident. She rushed out of the house and bumped into me on her way back, so we both came here. Now we're thinking the call might have been a prank. Did the call come from the hospital? No, it was a cell phone number. They said emergency responders sometimes use cell phones, so it wasn't odd. But when we tried calling back, no one answered. I see, so it was a prank. But something's off, Mom. There's something I need to ask of you. Is that okay? John's voice grew softer, likely not wanting Lisa to overhear. After hearing him out, I hung up and quickly took action. An hour later, I was in John's living room, applying a band-aid to my scraped elbow, which was stinging. Mom, are you here? I'm in the living room. John seemed to be back. We conversed loudly across the distance between the entrance and the living room. Once he knew I was in the living room, I heard the hastened footsteps of two people approaching. Mom, are you okay? Did you get hurt? I'm fine, just a small scrape. John entered the living room, gripping Lisa's arm, likely to prevent her from escaping. Looks like my suspicion was right. Now, Lisa, please sit down. We need to talk. I patted the sofa, gesturing for Lisa to sit. Once she was seated, John and I took our places opposite her. Lisa, possibly desperately thinking of excuses, remained silent, staring at the empty table in front of her. To get the conversation going, I decided to confirm today's events from the morning. Today, John had to work, and you were supposed to be at your part-time job, right? Did you go? No, I didn't. I lied about having work today. After John left for work, Karen went out to play, right? So what did you do alone at home? I went shopping alone. You're lying, aren't you? I didn't raise my voice but stared intently, putting pressure on Lisa. She seemed intimidated by my tone and gaze, shrinking a bit. So far, there had been no evidence or certainty about Lisa's affair, and even now, there was no evidence, but I was certain. So I decided to press her until she confessed. Weren't you at home all this time with your lover? That's not true. Lisa, who had been looking down, now raised her head to firmly deny my words. The lie about not going to work could be easily verified, but not the affair. Lisa seemed to be quickly deciding what to admit and what to deny. It seemed simple, but required quick thinking to avoid being caught in a lie. I had to be careful with the flow of the conversation and my choice of words. Weren't you always asking about their schedules because you were inviting your lover over when you were alone? But today, John finished work earlier than planned, right? Yeah, there was some miscommunication between sales and the client, so there was no rush. I was supposed to work until evening, but I finished around midday. I messaged Lisa to see if she needed anything from the store on my way home, but when she didn't reply, I just went home. Lisa probably noticed the message when you were almost home, right? Then, in a panic, she left to find you, making up the story about Karen's accident to avoid you coming home and catching her with her lover. At the hospital, Lisa's behavior was odd. She wasn't frantic about Karen's supposed accident, and when it seemed like the call might have been a prank, she suggested we go out instead of heading home. She was stalling to keep me from going home. I think so too. If John hadn't come home, her lover could have left after erasing any evidence. Please stop accusing me. This is all speculation, isn't it? Lisa loudly denied again, choosing carefully what to refute. For her, this was a crucial point to deny, but John and I were convinced of her affair. We continued to align our words towards our conviction. By the way, Lisa, did you know where Karen went to play today? No, I don't know. She just said she was going out, as usual. Oh, I see. Lisa had been too focused on how to evade our accusations to notice what was happening right in front of her. Could this be called not seeing the forest for the trees? I had been in John's house since before they returned, meaning I had a key. Realizing that Karen had visited my house today, where she hadn't been for the past 2 weeks, surprised Lisa. Karen hadn't visited my house for about 2 weeks, so it seems Lisa didn't expect her to be at my place. Because Karen came to my house instead of heading to the hospital, I ended up calling John to confirm the situation, and my destination changed from the hospital to John's house. After the call with John, I borrowed a key from Karen, left her in my husband's care, and hurried into the taxi I had called to go to the hospital, but I actually went to John's house. In the end, I didn't use the key I borrowed from Karen, but without it, I might not have thought to go to John's house. Everything turned out disadvantageously for Lisa. It's either sheer bad luck or perhaps divine intervention against wrongdoing. Lisa noticed the band-aid on my arm. From the fact that I was at John's house earlier and got injured, she seemed to realize something. It was time to talk about my certainty of her affair. Actually, the house was unlocked, so I didn't need the key. I was shocked when I entered and found an unknown man there. He pushed me and ran out. This scrape on my arm happened in the scuffle. It takes about 30 minutes to drive from my house to John's, but the taxi driver took some back roads and got there in about 20 minutes. Impressive professional skills, however, arriving too early meant I encountered Lisa's lover, who was in the middle of destroying evidence. The person who pushed me was your lover, right? I don't know such a person, Lisa firmly denied again. She seemed to think denying any connection to the affair would let her escape without tangible evidence like photos or recorded conversations. It's indeed the simplest and best strategy for her, but the moment I met the lover, Lisa's defeat was confirmed. So, the person I met was a burglar then. That would be the conclusion, Lisa. It's serious, a burglar entered this house. You need to call the police. Call the police. Of course, there was a burglary, but we should check the house first to see if anything's stolen, right? You're surprisingly tolerant to let it go just because nothing was stolen, or are you protecting the criminal? No, I just... Then call the police now. Lisa took out her phone but couldn't make the call, just staring at the screen. John and I knowingly watched her, not intervening. The living room became so quiet we could hear the clock ticking. After a minute of silence, Lisa still didn't call the police. Well, of course, she wouldn't. If she did, her lover could be arrested as a burglar. If it came out that he wasn't a burglar and Lisa knew it, she could be charged with making a false report. Plus, if she told the truth, it would mean confessing her affair. Reporting would turn into a much bigger problem than just admitting the affair. It seems you can't make the call. I'll do it then. Let's first check the house for stolen items. If nothing's stolen, there's no need to report, right? Besides, involving the police is troublesome. You might not report a theft, but I'm injured. I'll report it as an assault case, and I'll have to tell them about the break-in too. It might even be considered aggravated burglary. I can report it if you want. I can't just overlook a burglary. As John and I insisted on reporting, Lisa's face grew paler. If you admit to having an affair and that the man I met was your lover, I won't report it. Choose, was he a burglar or your lover? Admitting the affair means no police report. Just resolve the affair issue, but denying it leads to a bigger scandal with the police involved. I gave Lisa a choice, but it was really only one option. I'm sorry. I had an affair. Though we had no evidence, John and I managed to get her to confess. It would be too embarrassing to involve the police now. The threat was just a bluff. I'm relieved Lisa gave in. After admitting the affair, Lisa sat silently, looking at the empty table. John divorced her soon after. The divorce went smoothly since she admitted the affair. The divorced ex-wife went to live with her lover, but her troubles continued. It turned out her lover was a married man who had hidden this fact. The lover managed to reconcile with his wife, leaving the ex-wife alone. Now single, she had to work to pay for her living expenses. However, having been a part-timer since marrying John, she had a 15-year career gap. She's struggling to find a job now and is living in a cheap apartment, depleting her savings. But savings aren't infinite, she'll need an income eventually. She seems to be continuing with her part-time work, but spending time on it makes her already difficult job search even harder. Yet, relying solely on her part-time income, she can't escape the quagmire of depleting her savings. I'll support her in finding a job soon, though not wholeheartedly. I thought Karen would be shocked to learn about her mother's affair, but she wasn't as much as I expected. I was just feeling uneasy, not knowing whether she was having an affair or not. I'm relieved it's clear now, otherwise, it would have been unfair to Dad, having a wife who might be unfaithful. I had thought Karen was feeling anxious, but it seems she was just troubled. Maybe it's a difference in thinking and values from my time. Whether it's apparent or not, wrong is wrong. Karen seems to be able to cleanly separate things like that. Of course, she was a bit shocked when John and his wife divorced, but now she's back to her cheerful self. Today, she's coming over to our house to play as usual. I need to prepare the ingredients for pudding before she arrives.